Hey, welcome back. So money can be one of the top problems between couples. So with the holiday shopping season here, it can get even worse.
Yes, and before you find yourself in an argument over spending, we've brought in our relationship expert, Kat Robey, to help us. And money, yes. And even when we're not talking holidays, that's got to be one of the top problems in relationships. Yeah. So what does the holidays also add on to that?
Well, like you said, in general, we've got each person in the relationship has their own way of doing money. So there could be ways of looking at the other person's finances and being defensive about that, being judgmental about that. So yes, now we add on the holidays, when everything is about who do we buy for, which parties do we go to, which parties do we throw. These things are expensive. So it adds on because come January 1st, you might have a pile of debt that you can't handle, or a lot of money spent on something that you didn't intend or you didn't agree on. And those are really big issues. So
definitely. So a couple who manages their finances together, I mean, obviously in a relationship, you have your own boundaries, you have your own ideas about things. So at what point do you kind of say, you know what, I really don't like what you're doing? How do you set those boundaries?
If possible, I think it's great to have a full discussion about it from a curious standpoint. You know, what do you think the holiday should look like? Who do you think we should buy for? You know, I see that you don't like what we're working on over here. What suggestions do you have? What kind of parameters do you think we should set around it? And these are hard conversations to have, especially if you're feeling judged or defensive. So if you can take it with me, a deep breath, and try to get back into your skin and really talk about what the issue is. What is Christmas? What is Hanukkah? What do we really want to go for here in terms of how we present ourselves to our friends, to our families? You know, maybe it turns out that you do end up spending a lot of money, but talk about it before you do it. That's the problem. What happens is people feel confined by budgets. Well, you're going to feel awfully confined when those bills start rolling in the front of the year as well. So either way, it's going to be a discussion you're going to have, and it's probably not going to feel real comfortable after the fact. So if we can have a discussion about what could it look like? You know, if we only have this amount of money to spend, then, you know, how could we make Christmas the way we want to be that way? Do we make gifts? Do we invite people over to have some sort of dinner or tree decorating instead of the grand party that we were going to cater? There's lots of different ways on the continuum of finances to handle the holidays.
You also have to kind of have a conversation with yourself, because you have to find out what kind of person you are before you can even go to the table to talk to your significant other, because maybe you don't realize it. Maybe I am I'm keeping up with the Joneses kind of person, and I do want to put the best gift for everybody, and I want to be everyone's favorite gift that they're getting for this, and you don't realize it, and you're like, you know what, maybe that is who I am, and maybe that's why we're kind of having this problem.
And boy, does that take some deep breaths. Yeah, because that's where we all want to be. Yes. That's where we all need to be to have the kind of relationships that we want to have, because that is a very genuine and honest kind of place to hold ourselves. Like, oh, maybe I do like things. There's nothing wrong with liking things. But how can we like them in a manner that still fits in the budget of things that you have?
Well, and I think, Tina, you make a good point. As long as you have an accurate gauge of yourself, you can approach the situation with a more democratic demeanor, I would say.
Right.
And you bring up a good point in saying DIY projects and whatnot. I think that can even improve your relationship, can't it? Doing those things together.
Definitely. And I think that's what we've seen, you know, creating, you know, instead of, sometimes the conversation comes down to, do we buy things or do we do experiences, or how do we handle the holidays in general? We've gone to the realm of, let's have a dinner together, and that kind of is the present. Let's go to a show like this wonderful one we heard today, you know, be able to go and hear music together and build a memory instead of have a thing that thing, what happens when it breaks or doesn't fit anymore or goes away, or creating something together. All of that is going to be much more memory filled, and I think is a great way to have the conversation about finances, like I said, but it doesn't diminish the fact that finances are going to be around and still need to be talked about and need to be agreed on, or at least discussed. So yeah, have that curious mind. Scan for what's going on in yourself. Make sure you're not coming from a defensive or judgmental place. You'll get much, much further in the long run.
And this is why we're having you on today, because this discussion needs to happen now, not like, you know, day after Christmas when, you know, the credit card bill pops up in the mail.
Exactly.
So have it today, have a very open, like you said, not judgmental. Just sit down and maybe, you know, like you said, budget it out. Write it down on paper. This is how much we're going to spend on each person.
A couple other things. Plan for next year if you're looking at this year and it's too close. Plan for how you might shop the sales next year to be ready for the following year, so you can have budget and great stuff. Like, there's lots of ways around this.
Yeah, so I think that's great. Budget, think ahead, and come to the table kind of knowing what you want in a compromise kind of situation. Yes.
Definitely. Well, it's all about balance, right? I mean, I know, and I'll speak to my personal relationship. I you know, with my budget, there are certain things that can be improved. And my girlfriend, she is fantastic about her budget. And I was very willing to listen to her pieces of advice. And she said, this is what you have to cut out. This is what you have to do. Right. And I think couples, more than anything, just have to get back to being a unit and listening to each other.
Yeah, and see, you don't sound like you got very defensive about hearing that information. You didn't take it as a hit against you. You took it as information that you could either use to fuel a better you or be upset about.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Kat, this was fantastic, and we wish we had more time with you.
I know, I feel like I could talk all day.
And it's always good to have you. Come back anytime, okay?
Thank you.
To get more tips and to optimize your relationship, you can call Kat at 906-3392 or go online to robeycounseling.com.